Okay, in today's session we'll look at that installation part, the SAP HANA database server installation, how we can perform that. So we'll look into that. First of all, when it comes to installing a HANA database server, the first and foremost thing, remember, you need to install the operating system. Actually, there will be system administrators. Uh, they'll do that, but in case if your system administrators are doing it, we need to inform them about the file system they need to maintain, which is very important for us. So there is some specific file system which we need to maintain for HANA database server installation. So coming to that file system which you have to maintain, so that you can find in your installation documents generally. If you go to help.sap.com, you can find all your documents. In that list of the documents, you can find one document that is SAP HANA server installation guide. If you go to this HANA server installation guide, so they'll clearly give you what is the file system you need to maintain. Remember, as of now, we are going to do a single host database installation. So we'll discuss about multi-host or distributed databases later on. So first understand the single host HANA database server installations. So let us look at that file system first of all. So this is basically a single host system. Single host HANA database. So you decide on the storage solutions, otherwise you'll get along with your hardware, you know that. But making sure that what are the storage we are using is shared storage. That's very, very important. If not for today, tomorrow, when you want to spread your database to multiple hosts, so you need storage which is shared one. So that's very important thing. Now coming to the file system which you need to maintain. Very simple thing actually. Here it is, recommended file system layout. So you know root, if you know a little bit about Linux, you'll be knowing that it is all your operating system. And then come down, installation path, which we can call it as SAP MNT. The default path is /HANA/shared. This is a shared directory. So making sure that it's a shared directory. So these, whatever the files we have in this directory path, those files are shared between the host of HANA system. So the directory needs to be accessible to each of the servers in the HANA cluster in case if you maintain the clusters. So that's called installation path /HANA/shared. And then instance, a system instance directory, that is USR SAP. Generally, when you install your operating system, Linux operating systems, you can find that USR. So if you want, we can use the same. That's why they mention that it is possible to join this location with the Linux installations. Otherwise, when we do the partitioning, have this USR SAP. Then this basically this USR SAP will have local instance directories. So basically that's specific to that host. Every host will have this, and the previous one is shared directory, irrespective of number of hosts you have, and that will be common. And this is specific and local to that particular host. And then we have data volumes, and then we have log volumes. You know the data volume and log volumes is what your persistent storage is. The standard default path is /HANA/data/SID, and here the log volume /HANA/log/SID. So SID is your system ID. And you know, when we are maintaining these partitions, you know what is the size you need to maintain. We discussed about the sizing. So you know what sizes you need to maintain. So usually data volumes 3 times of RAM, log volumes equal to RAM. And the shared directory, it should be equal to RAM, because there you find your log files and trace files and all that. So this instance directory and root directory is a small space is good enough. Even root directory is only for operating system. If you have 10 GB is more than sufficient, and similarly instance directory also. Small spaces, 10 GB is more than sufficient for that. So accordingly, you install your operating system, and it depends on which version of database server you want to install. Based on that, operating system versions will vary, which they'll provide you, which they'll mention in the documentation as well as in the PIM, product availability matrix. There also you can find them. So if you see here, so here I'm running Linux, SUSE Linux I'm using. This is 12.2, because on this particular system I'm running HANA database 2.0. For 2.0, the 12.2 we are using. If it's an older version, the 11.x versions are sufficient. 11.4 is good enough. Okay. So install that operating system with the file system what I mentioned. Either it can be SUSE or it can be Red Hat. Anything is okay. The same procedure you can follow. And no additional libraries, no additional software is required. I just making sure that you give right kind of host name, but the host name when you are giving, you should have the domain also. You know that FQD and fully qualified domain names, which is mandatory. And one more thing, generally what happens in the companies is when they give the host names, they give 2 host names. One is called local host for internal access, and one they call it as certificate host for external access. So your local host name and certificate host name may be same or may be different. It depends on the company. So in case if they maintain different, make sure that you know both of them. You know the local host name as well as certificate host name. If they are same, it's fine. Because at the time of doing installation, it lasts for both actually. It lasts for local host name as well as certificate host name. Okay. Now, once your system is ready on that appliance, operating system is ready. Now, if you want to perform installation, as I shown you in the earlier session, what is the software you need to download? There are 4 DVDs. You download those DVDs and extract. So once you download and extract, you'll have your DVDs like this. It's actually SPS 8, this is 9, this is 10, this is 12, this is 2.0. We have all the versions. I mean, we'll start with the lower version and we'll upgrade to higher version so that you'll understand how to deal with different versions of your HANA database. It becomes easy for you that way. That's why I'm not directly jumping into 2.0, even though we are running 2.0 already here. You see this HANA database, what we are running is 2.0 version. But we'll start with the lower versions for your better understanding and practicing purpose. So I'm going to show you installation of HANA database server 1.0 with SPS 9. We'll start with 9 because 9 is a kind of version where SPS 9 a lot of changes they did and more stabilized version they came up with a lot of new options related to administration, a lot and better options. So we'll start with this and we'll try to upgrade up to 2.0 later on. I mean, installation, if you see, you won't feel any drastic changes anyhow. So we are going to work from a client workstation. This is a client workstation, a Windows machine. So I have PuTTY here. I'm going to use this PuTTY for installation, connecting to the Linux machine. So I'm connecting to that Linux machine. So actually, I'm copying this. This is I already copied 2.0, but we'll start with this SPS 9. I'm copying that media to this one of the directory. Generally, we'll copy to the media. We don't have media there. That's why I'm just copying into /HANA. So wherever that media is there, so you switch to that folder /HANA, and then this is 510.49876. So under that, if you go to something called data units, there's a subfolder there called HDBLCM, HDBLCM Linux. HDBLCM they're given only for Linux because you know your database server we can install only on Linux operating system. So that's why. So go to switch to that HDBLCM Linux. And here they provided HANA Database Lifecycle Manager. See, earlier they tried with something called HDB-INST, something like SAP INST. But they changed it. Now it's HDBLCM. We are doing all installations, updations, all that using HANA Database Lifecycle Management. This HANA Database Lifecycle Management, again, you have two versions. You can use a command line version, we can use a graphical one. Both options are available for you. Okay, I'll show you both. First, let us start with the command line one. So just run that HDBLCM like this, /HDBLCM. So once this copying is done, then we can start that. Just wait for a minute, this will be completed. Initially, when SAP came up with HANA in SPS03, those versions, it used to be a bit lengthy process. We used to have a template file. We used to edit the template file, entering all the details like SID, instance number, host name, time zones, and all that. Then using the template file, we used to do installation. Okay. So later on, as is a lengthy process and a bit complicated, they simplified it by using this HANA Database Lifecycle Managers, where it's all interactive. You can just enter the required details dynamically. It will just ask for those inputs. You provide the inputs and continue the installation part. Okay, this is the media I'm going to use. Now let us run this HDBLC. See, whenever you are trying to do an installation, always read through what they are giving. Understand what you are doing, what they are giving. Read it. Just don't blindly type the numbers and just continue. It's not the way you should do it. You see this HANA Lifecycle Management, HANA 1.00096. This basically we call it as a revision. This revision will tell you which support package stack we are using. Okay. So when we go for a topic called updates, we'll be discussing in detailed way what are these revisions, maintenance revisions and all that. But as of now, just remember that revisions and support package stack relation is something like this. So SPS 8 started with revision 80, SPS 9 started with revision 90, SPS 10 started with 100, 11 110, 12 120. Now it's 2.0. So that will tell you very easily which support package stack we are using. So again, in that also, that revisions will keep on coming up with something new. 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, all that. It's all part and parcel of SPS 9 only. But they'll keep on doing those enhancements. Every 6 months you'll get new support package stacks. So within the time period also, they'll keep on releasing these revisions. In between, there will be something called maintenance revisions also. We'll look at that when we go for updations. So it's scanning that software location and it's giving the list of detected components there. And then it's asking, choose the system to update or choose installation. So you want to update or install. Two things you have. The same HANA database lifecycle management can be used for updation of the existing HANA database if it's already installed, or installing a new system. So you can observe here, because this system I used it earlier, you can see already there are a couple of databases which were installed with 2.0 versions. Now you want to update them, you can update them. So anyhow, that's not our interest now. Our interest is installing a new system. So I'm going with option 3. Enter the selected system index. See, don't worry about those numbers. Read what is what. So yeah, option 3 is for installing new system. Choose install new system, whatever it is, option 1 or 2 or 3, whatever it is. Now, read this information carefully. What it's saying, HANA database version so and so will be installed. HANA database version 1.00096 will be installed. It's saying it will be installed. Database server will be installed. And then it's asking select additional components for installation. So along with your server installation, what it's asking is, along with your server installation, do you want to install some additional components which are available here? It's up to you. It's not compulsory now. It's not mandatory to install all the software components. Whatever is needed, you can install later on. It's not compulsory to install right now. So many components are available here. As and when situation demands, we can install them. As of now, we are not going to do installation of any of the additional components. We'll just stick to only database server installation. So that's why what I'm doing is I'm going with this option 1, no additional components. I am not installing any additional components except database server. Suppose if your requirement is you want to install database server along with the client and studio, we can choose 3 and 7. So you can just type 3, 7. You see it's clearly written comma separated list. So that you read. So I'm going with option 1, only server, no additional components. So then it's asking for the details. It's asking the details like what's the local host name. So you might be knowing that host name, right? So you can give that. Whatever is showing that square brackets, that's the default value. So if you are okay with this default value, you want to just continue, press enter key. Don't type anything there. Because my host name is HANA dev there, I'm just continuing with that. I'm not changing anything. Then it's asking for the installation path. As just now I mentioned already, the file system when you are maintaining, you need to use that you need to define those partitions. Installation path is the /HANA/shared. I'm fine with that. I'm not changing that. See, you can give different path also, but the problem is, tomorrow, whenever you're working with the database, when you look at the documentations, they always refer to the standard default paths. It will be a bit complicated for you to work with. That's why we never recommend you to have your own file system. We recommend you always to go with the standard file system recommended by SAP only. Then give the SID. Say, I'm calling it as a dev system. I'm just giving DB1. Instance number, the two-digit instance number. Going with that 01. Okay. See, there are very, very simple options for doing installations. Then it's asking, what's the database mode? So when it comes to the database mode here, there are two options. One is single container, and one is multiple containers. Single container, multiple containers. Actually, this option was introduced by SAP first time in SPS 9. They started with SPS 9. It was not there earlier. Actually, SPS 9, they've introduced something called multi-container concept. That's why this option is given, whether it's single container or multi-container. What is the difference? Why SAP came up with this? You are going to learn multi-container databases or multi-tenant databases in detailed way. So there will be exclusive sessions on that. Couple of sessions will dedicate only for multi-containers. You'll be learning how to install and work with the multi-container databases later on. That's why I don't want to go deep into that discussions as of now, but in a simple way you remember this. Maybe a lot of people have this confusion. You need to differentiate between the DBMS and database. A lot of people doesn't understand the difference between these two. But be clear, DBMS and database. DBMS means database management system. It only manages the databases. It doesn't store the data. Actual data will be stored in the database. So in simple terminology, single container is nothing but one DBMS managing one database. One DBMS managing one database is single container. Whereas one DBMS managing multiple databases is multi-container. There's a simple difference. I'm repeating that. One DBMS managing one database is single container, which generally what we do. One DBMS managing multiple databases is multi-container. It's just like, you want to easily differentiate like, independent house and apartment, that kind of difference. So customer will have definitely his own advantages. So which I'm not looking at now. I will just focus on single container, normal standard databases. So I'm going with option 1, which is the default value there. So I'm continuing with that. So then it's asking what's the usage of your database usage. Are you going to use it for development, test, production, or any custom usage you have? You can decide on that. This can be changed later on. So whenever you connect to the database, at least you'll understand for which purpose the database is being used. So that's why it is. I'm just going with that custom usage, option 4. And then it's asking what's your data volume location. So that's a data volume location. As I mentioned there, the default data volume location is that /HANA/data/SID. The SID we are given is DB1, so we are going with that default value. And this is for log volumes. /HANA/log/DB1, that is SID. Then it's asking, do you want to restrict the maximum memory allocation? Yes or no? So the reason why they ask you this question is, there's one specific reason behind it. I'll just show you one. See this one. See, in the companies, when you want to set up HANA database, generally what we do, we maintain dev system, test system, and production system. What SAP recommends is, SAP recommends dev and test system on one appliance, whereas production system on a different appliance. That's what generally what SAP recommends is. Just a minute. Okay, let us see what's the problem there. So when we say dev system and test system, you want to maintain on one HANA database. I mean, dev system and test system on one single host, one single appliance. When I install the dev database, I need to specify what is the memory we want to allocate for dev, what is the memory we want to allocate for test. So that's when we can use that option called maximum memory allocation limit. So we can limit the maximum memory for the HANA database. Okay. So if I specify say 100 GB, so that is for that database. So 100 GB will be used for that particular database. So that what we can do later on when I'm installing a test database, I can give say another 100 GB or something like that. That's the significance of that option, what they given and why they given is just to specify the memory allocations, maximum. Okay, this is what maximum I can use for my database. But remember that should be used only in such kind of situations where you want to run multiple HANA databases on the same host. Otherwise, we don't need to worry about that. I'll just show you one diagram here. This one. See, this is on HANA box where dev and test is one HANA box production. Suppose assume that this HANA box is having a 512 GB RAM. This is having 512 GB RAM. So if they ask you dev database should be installed with only 128 GB, remaining 384 you want to allocate for test database. So then when you install this dev database, you give 128 GB. So here you can enter the memory 128 GB. It should be in GBs only. That's what the purpose of that maximum memory allocation. Suppose you have a situation like this, what you see on the right side here. Only one HANA database on that appliance. So you want to allocate everything for that HANA database, you just say no here. If you say no, you don't want to restrict the max memory allocation. So system will automatically allocate the memory to the database. But it's a wrong assumption that it will allocate everything to the HANA database. That's not true. If you have 512 GB, 512 GB will not be allocated to HANA database. What happens is their system follows some calculations. The reason is why it won't allocate everything to the HANA database is if everything is allocated to HANA database, how operating system will run, how other applications will run. Maybe there are small applications running in that system, how they are going to run. So that's why it won't allocate everything to the HANA database. What it does in those situations is a simple formula it will follow. A simple formula. Generally people will say 90% of the memory. That's not correct. The first 64 GB so you better say here 90% of first 64 GB and then 97% of remaining memory. Understand this. up to 64 GB, first 64 GB it will be 90%, and top of that whatever additionally we have, that will be 97%. Like example, 128 GB machine. So memory allocated equal to 64 multiplied by 0.90 plus remaining 64 multiplied by 0.97. This is a simple example. Let us take another one. If your system is having 256 GB RAM, I'm speaking about 256 GB RAM, physical RAM, what you have in that appliance, then it will be first 64, it is 90%, remaining 192, 97%, like this. This is a simple calculation what system follows, and it will allocate the memory to the HANA database. So that you remember always. Some people may simply say that because generally they see small appliances with 32 GB RAM and all that, 64 GB RAMs, they may assume that it's only 90%, but that's not the case there. Okay, I'm not restricting. Don't try to restrict. Tomorrow when I'm giving the servers to you, when you do installations, don't restrict, because whatever the memory we have is just sufficient for installing HANA database. You can't try to restrict it. I'm not doing it. And then it's asking for entering the certificate host name, as I did explain to you earlier. So not only local host, it will also ask for the certificate host. Enter the certificate host. In case if it's different, give it, otherwise continue. And then when you're installing a HANA database, remember there is a user created at the OS level. SID ADM. This is OS user, SID ADM. Only one user. So that is DV1 ADM here, and it's asking for the password. Enter the password. Confirm the password. Anything, whatever you want, you can give that. As a user created at the OS level, there will be a home directory, there is a login shell, there is one ID generated by system. You can continue with the default values. All three: home directory, login shell, and user ID. And one more point, remember, when you're doing this first installation of a database on any host, there were some databases already installed in the system. That's why you won't get this. But first time when you're doing installation, there is also something called host agent installed. It will install host agent, and that host agent will have a user called SAP ADM. That SAP ADM password also you have to give. Remember that. In case first time when you're doing installation of a database on that host. And then there is also a database user created called system. So that's a system. It's asking for the password of that. Enter your own passwords. That's it. That's it. Only these are the details you need to provide. And it's asking finally, do you want to restart your instance after machine reboot? Means whenever the operating system reboots, is asking, do you want to restart your instance? Is asking. It means automatically it will start the instance. Don't do it here, because there will be multiple databases running on the same host. When all those instances will try to start, if memory is not sufficient, no database will start. That's why don't try this here. When you know that only one single instance is running there, you can choose this option. Yes, but I'm going with no here, which is default. And finally, it's giving summary before execution. So showing whatever we have selected, whatever we entered, all that is showing. And you want to continue, say yes, continue. So now it will start doing that installation. So this database server installation usually 15 minutes task. In fact, your instance creation will take hardly 5 minutes, and after that there will be some ready-made content provided by SAP. to work with your database wizards and all that you need to get. So all that will be provided in the form of something called delivery units, and that delivery units importing will take around say 10 minutes. So total 15 minutes maximum it will take for installing this HANA database. Any version, almost same thing. There's nothing much different there. So now it's going on. Just wait for 10-15 minutes and have a look at that. And finally the logs also, it will clearly show you where exactly the logs are stored. Default the log will be stored in that /var/tmp /var/tmp. If you go to that var tmp, you can find the log, HDB LCM log we can find, and we can find out in case of any issues, any problem occurs, you can find out. See, you won't come across errors unless otherwise, you come across situation where you don't maintain proper hardware, there's no proper software, or file system is missing. Those kind of situations you come across errors. Otherwise, no possibility. You won't come across any issues or errors as such, if you do it in the right way, the right manner, which is recommended by SAP properly. Okay. See, I'm going to give you server access. Don't worry. I'll give you server access. You check the file systems and all that. You do it on your own. I'm going to give you. Actually, first of all, tomorrow I'll explain you some more things which we need to look at, like how we can add some more additional components, how we can work with the client workstations. Then I'll explain you how to work in our environment, how to log in remotely, how to access the Linux machines. We'll be allocating Linux machines to you. So how to access those Linux machines and how to do installations on that, and how I'm maintaining file systems, which will give some comfort for the installations of multiple HANA database on the same host. Because I had to customize it as per our requirements. We should give flexibility for you. Because we are not dedicating one system for one database. There will be multiple people installing multiple databases on the same host. So that flexibility should be there. That's the reason why I do change some file systems. I do follow a different kind of setup, so which I'm going to explain you in tomorrow's session. Then when you practice, you look at it, what we are doing and how you can do those installations on your own. All of you can practice this. It's not a big. I'll give you servers. Now observe that even when installation is happening, look at some major phases of installation. Now it's creating an instance of the database. So as I told you, it doesn't take much time. Your instance creation and database starting will take hardly 5 minutes maximum. So it's starting that database instance now. So there will be few services which we are going to look at later on. So it will start the database. Once your database is successfully started, then it will start importing the delivery units. Starting importing, importing delivery units is usually a 10 minutes process. See, now it's started. Delivery units is imported. Yeah, what we are using is 32 only. 32 GB RAM only, it will take 10 minutes. Maximum 15 minutes. The RAM doesn't matter much when you're doing installation. Minimum should be there. But if you have good processors, then the installation will speed up a little bit more. Yeah, definitely we need to apply license. We'll come to that. We'll discuss on the coming sessions. Take another 5 minutes to complete that. Yeah, it's almost done. So now you can see that message HANA system is installed, and you can also clearly see that a log file written to so and so path, that /var/tmp. So that also you can clearly see that hdblcm.log. So there you can find out log details. It's a simple process. I mean, it's not so complicated. So, but you need to know a few more things. I mean, before you can start doing installation. So we need to know some more things like, if needed, how to install additional components and the client workstations, what we need to do and all. So tomorrow I'm going to show you on that first, and then I'll explain you how to work in our environment, and then server access will be given to you. You can start practicing after. Okay, so that's what HANA installation is all about. So we'll continue tomorrow then.